Alrighty, good evening, everybody. It is 6:30. I see we still have quite a few individuals joining us, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So today is our final installment for this semester of Life After Sports series. And we have James Guidry with us tonight. He has graciously agreed to get on with us tonight and talk about life after sports and everything that involves diversity, change, you name it. He's probably going to talk about it tonight. He's a former Javelina football player. He's played professionally. He's worked with the NFLPA and has done a lot of great things all in between that little brief bio that I provided him. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to James, and he will lead us away.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start off, I'm sort of a animated type of guy, so you're going to hear some things tonight about, education, sports, relationships, networking. I actually talk about a couple litigations that I've been a part of, so you'll hear some things in reference to legal backgrounds. You'll hear some things as far as antitrust litigations, and currently what you're witnessing in the professional sports, the business of football, you hear things like that. But I just want to jumpstart and just build some energy in you. I like this, being a former player for A&M Kingsville. So hopefully you guys can hear this. Go hard! So I start off because I'm very passionate about my school, and I'm glad for the opportunity to re-engage with them after being gone for so many years. And since leaving the university, my journey has come full circle. I like to say that. I want to talk about how I ended up at Texas A&M. It was Texas A&M then. I respectfully call it Texas A&M University Kingsville today because that's what it is, and that's where it will continue to be. I was a two-star athlete in varsity football in a school where integration placed in our city very late. Back in 1982, I was attending an all African American high school there, and the superintendent at the time, Mike Taylor, decided that in order to have us to be provided with similar resources and opportunity and tools and equipment that the all white school had in the city, he integrated us. So integration happened for us basically it's 27 years after the Civil Rights Law was passed Civil Rights Act was passed into law. And I went on to go be the first year we won the state title, and I was the quarterback for the varsity football team. The following year, ended up sustaining an injury in the playoff game, a compound fracture on my left wrist. I came back my senior year and put up some more good numbers, only to lose in the second round of the playoffs my senior year. I had one of the longest winning streaks in my city. I hadn't lost a football game from 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade until my senior year mid-season. And I had one of the longest winning streaks there in the city. I was heavily recruited by Rice University in Houston, Texas. Then since I had an injury on the artificial turf, and Rice was playing on artificial turf there, I did not want to go to school there. Although it's a great university as far as medical is concerned, and they have a great legal program there, it still was not a place I wanted to go play football. Although all the accolades and as far as academics were concerned fit my profile. I also was recruited by Texas Tech, Sam Houston State, Baylor, McNeese State, Lamar University. There was only OS, Southland Conference school, Division One school that played on natural grass. But I'm from Beaumont, and it's in my backyard, and I didn't want to stay home. So somehow, some way, one of my coaches heard from Mike Scott, who was the defense coordinator at Texas A&I at that time, and he heard about me and talked to my coach and said, "Is this guy going somewhere else?" He says, "I don't know. I'll give you his contact information." Mike Scott called me, says, "We'd like for you to come visit our campus." And so I took the 5-hour drive from Beaumont to Kingsville. And when I got down there were a couple of things I recognized right off the bat. First, for me to prolong my career as an athlete, I wanted to play on natural grass. They had natural grass. But when I walked into that concrete stadium and I looked underneath the press box and I saw 7 national championships, I was sold. And then they had opportunity to walk me around in the community. I got to meet some of the commoners there in the city of Kingsville. Saw it was a small community. I thought it was ideal for me to come to school there. I met with Coach Harms afterwards and made my decision immediately after I visited that school. No need for me to go visit anyone else. That was my journey to get to Texas A&I. While I was there, I saw there was a lot of men on the football program that looked like me. There were knuckleheads like me. We had the same. Some of us came from similar backgrounds. Some of us came from single-parent households. Some of us came from broken house homes. I came from poverty beginnings. My family was in a struggle. I felt like if I did well collegiately, I can help my family overcome some of the adversities that they were having economically. So I took up a major of managing. I had the idea of one day that I would own my own restaurant and I would manage it, become owner and manage my own restaurant one day. And just follow me on my journey here. Why sometimes when we make plans, God seems to alter our plans and do what's best, what He feels is best for us. So as a freshman, I came in. I had the anticipation I was going to eventually become a starter. Was not, and I struggled with learning the offense because I came from a passing offense in high school to a running offense collegiately, and we had what was known back then as blue star athletes, what they consider to be 4 or 5 star athletes today currently. So I was considered to be a 4-star athlete today, and I went to a Division II school. I played backup for 3 years. I was there. But while I was playing backup, befriended the starting quarterback, and he and I made a pact with each other that if he couldn't succeed the team, that I would be able to succeed the team, and it worked out perfectly. And then we had a bright idea and told our head coach at the time, Ron Harms, that we wanted to become roommates. And he never heard of 2 men or 2 young men like ourselves competing for the same job, wanting to be roommates. And he thought that it was going to be some conflict there, but we assured him that it would not be a conflict there, that we were a team, and that I supported him and he supported me. And I honor my position as a backup, and I was the best backup there. And we were trying to do some great things. My freshman year, we won the conference championship. My sophomore year, we won the conference championship. My junior year, we did not. Um, my senior year, fast forwarding, my senior year, I ended up becoming the starting quarterback. But the first game of the season, I sort of I laid an egg, put it like that. All the expectations everyone had around me, and uh, as a caliber quarterback to be able to lead the team to national championship, I really had put a question mark on a lot of people's mind if I can be a starter for the program. Alongside of that, I was doing well pretty much. I was doing pretty well academically too for my freshman, sophomore, junior year. But now since I took on the starting quarterback for the program my senior year, I wasn't doing as well academically. And, I also was engaged in a lot of community activities. I became a member of the King Star Baptist Church over off of King, which is Martin Luther King Street now over there, just south of the campus. And I was a choir member, so I sang in the choir. So I was engaged in the Kings community as well as being a student athlete on campus. And I built up some great relationships and still have good, strong relationships with some of the citizens there in Kingsville. I've um, actually spoke in ministry at the church a few times, and also participated in Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and spoke on behalf of the students at the university. at the old shopping center that used to be there. There used to be a mall there, and they held an event for in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and I spoke at that event. Um, I was always involved, actively involved there, and I wanted to be able to serve the community in a way where they will always appreciate a young man like myself coming from a city like Beaumont and actually helping to build and engage relationship and build relationships and network while I was there in Kingsville. And that's why I'm so passionate about my school because they gave me an opportunity. What Kingsville did for me was help me to become a man. It helped me to understand what diversity is all about. I needed to get away from home and I needed to grow within myself. I was a person that was had many challenges as a young man. I wasn't always perfect. I didn't always make the right choices. But with those choices I made, I understood what the consequences were. And as a result of those consequences, it helped me to become a better person today. So I came back to the school. Um, After my senior year, I ended up with my senior year career. We ended up going to the playoffs. It was the first time the school went to the playoffs in 9 years. And I was the first black quarterback to do that, to take the school to the playoffs in 1988. And we had two home games, and we were doing very well. We knew we were going to win a national championship. I was playing under the shadows of two All-American running backs, Heath Sherman, who ended up getting drafted and going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Johnny Bailey, who was the first collegiate player, Division II, to ever win the prestigious award, which is compatible to the Heisman Trophy Award at Division I, the Harlem Hill Trophy. He won it 3 years in a row. He was the first player to ever do that. And I don't think there's ever been a player to ever do that since, to win it 3 years back to back to back like that. And we ended up losing that year, his junior year, my senior year, in the semifinals against Portland State in Portland, Oregon. So the university helped to shape me as a man and helped me to understand how to deal with adversity, not only on the football field, but also in the classroom. When I got there wasn't many professors that looked like me. Um, there wasn't many academic counselors that looked like me. There was only a handful, there was only one full-time African American coach on staff there, and Don Pittman. There was a GA, there was a graduate assistant whose name is I think Anthony Mayberry, and then another GA assistants too that actually helped groom us and help us to understand what the school represented, which is excellence in academics. And we have a great ag department there, a great engineering department there, and a great business department there as well. And I got the understanding about responsibility because there were some areas in my life that I was not always responsible. So academic was a priority because without it, when I was in high school, there was a bill passed called Proposition 48. You guys can do your research on that to understand what Proposition 48 was all about. I'll give a brief synopsis of what it was about. In high school, you had to maintain a certain grade level in order for you to play on Friday nights in high school. If you did not maintain that grade level in high school and you missed it even if you missed it by half a point, you missed 6 weeks of athletics in high school. And that could potentially damage you from actually winning and getting a scholarship to go to college. So I was very focused on my education. I wasn't a great educator. I wasn't great in academics. I was doing enough just to survive, to get by. And as a result, I understood in order for me to get to Texas A&I at that time, I had to do well on my SAT, which is a standard aptitude test. I believe it's still called the SAT or the standard aptitude test. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah. You can correct me, but so I did well on my SAT to earn the scholarship to come to Texas A&I. So academics, I understood early on, academic was always going to be important. After my senior year, when we lost, I want to talk about some of the adversity because, like I said, the city and the school helped me to deal with adversity. Probably not traditionally like anyone else would do. I'm sort of an unorthodox guy. I'm sort of different too. Try to figure things out on my own without asking for help. So after my senior year, we lost the semifinals. My grades plummeted, and I was on academic probation. So I came back in the spring, and when I came back in the spring, I had some trauma I was dealing with, and my mom and my dad took on some health issues, some health concerns. I won't go into great detail about what they were, but they were enough to impact my mentality, and I lost focus. And to the point that my GPA dropped. It dropped so much. There was a summer program there, the summer of 1989, and I was hired to be a resident peer counselor. It was a youth program there. I don't know if they still have it there at the university. So these youth come in from all around the state of Texas, as far west as El Paso, as far north as Dallas, as far east as Houston, Galveston, and all points in between San Antonio, Austin. And they came down and they populated the campus in the summer, and as a youth program. And I had opportunity to come back to the school that summer and work in that program, and thinking that I can also work the program and also go to class at the same time, not realizing that in the summer classes are accelerated a lot faster than they are in the fall and in the spring. So I wasn't mentally prepared to do that. So I dropped my classes. Then after that summer, I tried to go back to school in the fall of '89. It was unsuccessful. And after the fall of '89, I decided to take upon a job there on King Street at the local Dairy Queen. So I took upon a job at the local Dairy Queen. And then within 6 weeks, I became what they call the top cook. And then the assistant manager, he quit. And the supervisor approached me and gave me the nod to be the assistant manager after 6 weeks there. So I began to get some management experience, which that's what I went to school for, to study business management. And it's called OJT. OJT means on the job training. So what I was actually going to school for, I was actually put in the fire in fast food. And like I said before, my ideal coming out of high school, I wanted to own my own restaurant and manage it. And this was giving me the opportunity to do exactly what I was passionate about coming out of high school. So I became assistant manager. And within a few months, the manager was pulling me aside, telling me that she was ready to leave because the job was beginning to be overwhelming for her. Two things happened. When I took up on the position there as an assistant manager, the owner knew that my popularity, I was still a popular former student athlete at the campus, and his business grew because people started coming to Dairy Queen. And he wanted to basically supplant me in his company and continue to help it to grow and expand. So he offered me a position in Alice, Texas, to manage his Dairy Queen in Alice, Texas. And I was like talking to a couple of people who knew very well about the community in Alice. And he said, and one guy told me, "You don't want to go to Alice. You just don't want to go to Alice." And I was asking him why, and he told me why. And I said, "Okay, I'm good." And the owner was willing to actually finance a vehicle for me so I can have transportation to go from Kingsville to Alice to manage his Dairy Queen. Long story short, I didn't take the position, but he made me manager of his Dairy Queen there on King Street. And I managed there. And while I was managing and getting like on the job training for everything I went to school to study, I was learning it in Dairy Queen. I was learning about produce orders. I was learning about child labor laws. I was learning about profit ratios. I was learning about produce orders. I was learning everything that I was going to college for. I learned it on the job at Dairy Queen and how to conduct it. And then he came and put me in his office and taught me some more things. And as a matter of fact, he was in business partnership with Halliburton. So he was well to do. I can't remember his name right now. But it taught me everything I was going to college for. It taught me in 6 months at the local Dairy Queen. And while I was working at Dairy Queen, I was working out and I was training still in the process with the hope of continuing to pursue my football career. And by coincidence, this league started in Europe. And my coach even came by the Dairy Queen. And, when anybody come by the Dairy Queen, I knew I would take care of them. And someone told me about this league, and an agent contacted our university and was looking for a quarterback. I was available. The coach didn't tell him I was available. I had to have a meeting with the coach, and I pulled him aside and asked him if the agent would call you again, could you give him my contact information? So he did. And he said, "I thought you were still in school." I said, "No, I wasn't in school. I'm just managing this Dairy Queen." And I didn't feel like I needed to go back to school because I was already in my field of study, what I was pursuing while I was there as a student. So the agent contacted me a few days later. And I was offered a job to go play professionally, but not here in the United States. I was offered to go play professionally in Europe, in a beautiful city called Barcelona, Spain. And my best friend still to today, he signed with the same agent. He was in San Antonio. He said, I'm gonna come down and bring your contract to you so you can sign it. And he came down. And the long story was I was at Dairy Queen and I was living in a house with two other or three other former teammates. I moved out of that house around a corner from where they were living. So I can isolate myself from them and focus on what I was trying to accomplish in my life at the time, which is still trying to help my family and still trying to do good for myself. I so happened to go back over to that house to visit with my teammates to see how they were doing, and the phone rang, and I can hear one of my teammates saying, "Well, he doesn't live here anymore." And I walked on the porch, and he says, "Wait 1 second, there he is outside." And when I walk in the house, one of my teammates said, "The phone is for you." And I said, "Well, who is it?" And he said, "I don't know, it's some agent." I said, "Give me the phone." Give me the phone. And I grabbed the phone, and the agent was like, "Are you James Guidry?" I said, "Yeah, I'm James Guidry." He said, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Alan Baxter." And I just started to scream and yell, and I was like, "Man, tell me this is not a dream." And he said, "It's not a dream. I got your contract." Baby McClendon, who's a former student athlete there from Kingsville as well. Sorry about that, guys, but he's a former athlete there. He drove down from San Antonio and brought my contract, and I signed my contract inside of King Star Baptist Church. Because my faith is one thing about me. You guys will know or learn is that my faith has carried me through so much adversity, and that's the foundation by which my parents raised me on. But at that moment when my parents got sick, I did rebel because they taught me about faith and hope, and I felt like faith and hope in that moment was failing me because they were wielding away. They were, and I sort of semi rebelled, and as a result of some of that rebellion, that's when my grades had begun to plummet, and I began to lose focus, and then that whole transaction happened when I ended up not doing well in school, getting a job at Dairy Queen because I was in a rebellious state. It felt like the world was cheating on me, and I was being cheated. And then fast forward, here it is. It's like it came full circle and taught me about patience with my higher power, which is God. And if I just be patient, the doors will open for me. And there I was in King Star Baptist Church signing a contract to go to Europe. And then when I left Kingsville, I resigned from my job, a management position at Dairy Queen. I signed my contract. A month later, in August of 1990, I'm on a flight in Dallas, Texas, flying from Dallas, Texas to Madrid, Spain. And as soon as I sat on the flight, the American airline flight in Dallas and DFW airport, the first person came to mind was not my mom, my dad, my brothers or sisters, anyone else that helped me to get to that point. It was my Spanish teacher from my freshman year in high school. And the reason why I'm raising him is because of this. The very first day when you go to Spanish class, when I went to my Spanish class, he sat all the students down, and the very first thing he said was, learn this language because you never know, you may go to Spain one day. I'm 14 years old. There's no way I'm thinking at 14 years old about another country. At that moment, I'm thinking at that time, like, what's going to be for meal tonight, and if we're going to have food on the table when I get home tonight, or the lights are going to be on when I get home tonight. And there's no way I'm thinking about going to Spain at 14 years old. Fast forward, I'm 23 now, and I'm going to Spain. As soon as I land in Spain, I can't speak Spanish. So I'm thanking Mr. Yannick. I'm listening. His name was Mr. Yannick. Like I should have listened to Mr. Yannick when I was a freshman in high school. I should have learned this language. And when I got over here, I would have been able to communicate with some of the native Spaniards, but I was not. So when I got over there, they came in and they picked me up from the airport, and my football career took off from there. Once I got acclimated to the country, I loved Spain, and I grew to become like really family to a lot of the Spaniards over there. They still look at me as a brother today, and I still look at them as they're my brothers today. We won two Super Bowls, what they call it Super Copa. They're compatible to Super Bowls here in the United States. I won back-to-back Super Bowls there. The first year, and went back in '91. We won it the first year, And that year, the NFL World League was taking off, and they had teams in Barcelona, London, Scotland, Hamburg, Frankfurt, and I believe those are the only European NFL teams they had. And they had several NFL teams back on the homeland here in the United States. So while I was over there, I was actually interviewing for an NFL team. And after winning the second Super Bowl, I actually was put in the NFL World League draft in 1993 to play for that season. Jack Till was the GM for the Barcelona Dragons at that time, and I was going to be playing that season to be reallocated back to Los Angeles to play with the Rams when the Los Angeles Rams were there the first time back in the 90s. But the Reggie White lawsuit took off, and the NFL Players Association had filed a lawsuit against the NFL. So the NFL didn't know how long they were going to be in court. So 1993 season didn't happen for me. Everything happens for a reason. Just remember I was talking about earlier how to deal with adversity. So everything happens for a reason. So I didn't get a chance to. I actually worked out for the team. They signed me, but it was a no-go because they had to settle out of court with the NFL Players Union. So I left Barcelona, Spain in 1993 and went to Florence, Italy and played American football in Florence, Italy. So education, we're talking about education. I picked up two more languages while I was in Europe. So I speak Spanish now, and I still speak a little Italian. I can understand a lot of Italian words. And I learned about the government, and I learned about the communities over there. I actually got hands-on history. With the history books we have here in the United States, I just felt like I was cheated once I got over there. And when I went to Rome and was in the Roman Colosseum, I said, man, this is just, if we had this in our history books, I would have been more attentive. I would have paid more attention in my history class. But to go to the Rome and go to the Vatican and see the tapestry from that Michelangelo and learn about the Renaissance of arts and the medieval times and learn about dictators such as Mussolini and Adolf Hitler and all those people that were over there in Europe at the time, I got an education on life, just virtual life, just being in the present and being in the moment and learning about European history and how the United States became about when the Europeans left Europe and landed over there in what this country is known as the United States of America. So my journey took me to so many places as an athlete, and again, academically, I would not have been able to have the opportunity had I not stayed focused, even through all the adversity. I would not have been able to accomplish what I accomplished. So in '88, let me back up a little bit. 1987, I witnessed the first black quarterback win, and a lot of people witnessed him win the NFL Super Bowl. His name is Doug Williams. He attended Grambling University, and he's playing with the Washington Redskins, and they beat the Denver Broncos in 1987. And mind you, I'm a junior that year, so I'm thinking because it was a struggle for black quarterbacks to make it to the NFL. But when Doug Williams won it, it opened up a lot of minds, such as mine. And I'm mentioning his name because he and I became friends in Europe. Tony Rice. Tony Rice was a quarterback at the University of Notre Dame. He was the first black quarterback to win the national championship in Division One, and he played against another black quarterback from West Virginia that year. And they were the first two black quarterbacks to compete in the national championship game, and Tony Rice ended up winning. Tony Rice and I were going to be competing for the same job in Barcelona, Spain, with the Barcelona Dragons. But again, in 1993, they didn't play the season, so we didn't pursue it any longer. Tony Rice decided not to go back, and I decided not to go back to Barcelona. After that, I came back to the United States while I was in Europe every year to pursue a professional career here. And that came through the Arena Football League, which is indoor football. So won back-to-back Super Bowls in Spain, 91 and 92. The same year in 1992, I came here and landed back in the United States. I joined a team in Detroit with the Detroit Drives, and we won the Arena Bowl. So I had 3 championships, 2 in Barcelona, Spain, 1 here in the United States with the Detroit Drives at Arena Football League. And then I went back to Europe and I won an indoor championship in Florence, Italy. So I had 4 championships in back-to-back years and back-to-back seasons, all in a row like that. And I came back here, and I refused to go back to Europe after the 1995 season. I stayed here in the United States, played indoor football from 1996 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Florida, in Florida, in West Palm Beach, Florida, in 1997. I was in Albany, New York. Ended up that season in Anaheim, California. Because it was such a roller coaster for me in my career, I decided I was not going to play football any longer, and I decided I wanted to come back and coach. So to get some coaching experience, I contacted Ron Harm, who was the head coach at ANI at the time, and asked him could I come back and get on his coaching staff. He said sure. Well, I didn't know that coaching was so demanding. You got men that are up at 3 in the morning, together installations, working with position coaches, working strategically from 2 in the morning to, from 3 in the morning to 1 at night, and only getting like 2 to 3 hours of sleep every night. I was not prepared for that. Needless to say, I coached that 1 year in 1997. We went to the playoffs. We did. We lost the first round of the playoffs against UC Davis. And I decided after that that I was not going to come back and coach because it was just not for me. Coaching was just not for me. You got to know your limitations. I knew what my limitations are, and I said I'm not a coach. So I took upon a position as an accountant in a home health care business that my best friend's sister had owned. And I was tasked with keeping ledger for everything that they spent money on, all the equipment, everything that they use as far as syringes are concerned, cotton swabs, alcohol swabs, anything that came out of that was out of the building, I had to keep a ledger for auditing purposes in case she came and she got audited. I had to have everything in line. So I actually learned a lot about accounting as well. Again, OJT, on the job training. Then after that, when I didn't go back to play, I learned through the USA Today paper that the team I ended up playing with in the Arena League in Anaheim defunct, which means they contracted out and they were no longer going to play any longer, and that 4 players who were on the active roster went into what's called a dispersal draft. And I was drafted in 1998 to go to Portland, Oregon to play with a team called the Portland Forest Dragons. I did well in 98, and I did so well, my teammate ended up, he and I were roommates, he ended up signing a contract with the Miami Dolphins at the end of the season. And I was like, wow, I got a shot. I can try again to go to the NFL after witnessing him leaving. So I came back in 99. And third week of the season, 1999, I'm in hot pursuit. I'm the top 3rd quarterback in the league at that time, putting up some great numbers. And the 3rd game of the season, I break my neck. And I'm instantly paralyzed. I'm paralyzed on the field, and all of a sudden I stop breathing and I die on the field. And I get an account, I'm telling you now, is from everyone else because I don't remember anything as my life was expiring on the field. And they tell me later that there's a gentleman there, first time at the game, at an Arena Football League game, that was just hired by the opposing team that I was playing against. The owner had just hired him that night, and he was at the game, and he witnessed what happened to me. As soon as he saw what happened to me, he started to work on me and saved my life. And as a result of that, I was in the hospital recovering. And as a recovery, then there was a movement started. Players decided it's time to start an organization so we can get some support, some protection for purposes of what happened to James. It could happen to all of us. And while I was in recovery, I had neck surgery a month later. And when I got out of recovery and got out of the hospital, they called me up and asked me if I can become part of the organization. I said, sure, count me in. I was elected as the first president of the Arena Football League Players Union. And I started on a task of fighting for just basic fundamental rights to improve our wages and working conditions. And I was main plaintiff in a class action lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit, and won my case. And players got instant free agency overnight. They got better contracts, they got better hours to work, and they got better working conditions. Salaries jumped maybe 200% as a result of what I did on behalf of the players. And talking about diversity, what I did was not just for black players, it was for all players. It was for all players. It didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter religion were, it didn't matter what your sexual preferences were, it didn't matter to, and it still doesn't matter to me today. If I feel like there's some wrong there, and I feel like there's some injustice there, I am in the fight for it. So fast forward now, we have an organization called the Arena Football League Players Association. Gene Upshaw, remember this name, he's a former Javelina. He graduated in 1967, was drafted by the Oakland Raiders. At the time in 2001, he was the executive director of the NFL Players Association. He brought me in-house to work for the Arena Football League Players Union and also work for the NFL Players Association. So I was doing dual duties with the Arena Football League players and the NFL players. So I was given the task as a regional director to go to basically the NFC North Conference, which were the New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Washington Redskins. So I had to visit with them, and then other teams around the NFL to just talk to them and disseminate information to them about their collective bargaining agreement, talk to them about DGRs, defined gross revenue, talk to them about long-term benefits, talk to them about post-career benefits, talk to them about continuing education, and talk to them about the business of football, just basically the business of football. And that was the task that was given. And they're keeping them engaged about union businesses. 2008, fast forward to 2008, Gene Upshaw passed away, August of 2008. And the Arena Football League went into bankruptcy. So I'm now without a job. But still in Washington, D.C. at the NFLPA's office. So they transitioned me over to the NFL Players Association, and they give me a task and give me a title to become Manager of Collegiate Affairs. So now I'm Manager of Collegiate Affairs, and I've been given the task of going out and engaging with compliance, such as you, Hannah, and building a relationship with all Division I schools, FCS, FBS schools across the United States, and asking questions like, what are you struggling with as far as your student athletes are concerned? And primarily at that time, it was the agents' relationship, just coming on the campuses and trying to sign contracts with players and giving them brown paper bags with money in it, taking them out to dinner and wine and dining, which is a clear violation of the NCAA rules. And then they were jeopardizing their eligibility. So I was tasked with going out and educating players, coaches, parents, and staff collegiately about the risk factor. And then I was managing, again, there I go managing a pipeline program. And I had a 20 slide presentation I had to give to explain the difference between the NFL and the NFL Player Association, because everyone thought I was from the NFL, and I was explaining to them, no, the NFL Players Association is a union. We're in a relationship with management, and we have a contract between us. It's a legitimate partnership. And then when I talked to them about transitioning from college to pros, giving them information about early declaration, because you got a lot of young men, because of the status economically at home, they declare early so they can get money to help their families out, such as what my ideal was when I was in college. And then I also explained to them that if there's resources to help them understand, if they're not going to be drafted, they can call a number in New York City, and if they don't feel like they're high enough in a draft after 72 hours, they can declare, protect their eligibility, and continue to play collegiately. Parents didn't know that. And then I talked to them about money, how money could be fleeting as a young man if they don't have any education as far as finances is concerned, and learn about wealth preservation and not wealth accumulation. And I explained to them hypotheticals like, you get drafted 4th round, your signing bonus may be, $200,000, and you think 200,000 when you sign your name on the contract. Well, you don't get 200,000 at 200,000 because at that time the tax bracket, you fall in a different tax bracket. You can sign for your bonus at 200,000. Uncle Sam's going to take half of that. So now you have 100,000. Then you sign with an agent. He's going to sign you a max of probably 3% to represent you. And you sign an SRA with him, which is a standard representation agreement. You owe him 3% of what you signed for. So 3% goes to him. Then if you had student loans in college, you have to pay your student loans back. If you had a kid in school, guess what? You're going to have to be paying child support now. And then you think you get all this money and not even thinking about the debt that you accrued while you was in college. And then you want to do right by mom and dad, and you want to do something nice for yourself. But at that time, you haven't even been in camp yet. You don't start getting paid until you go to work. So you didn't consume all your bonus up. Now you need to go to work. And the one thing I always tell parents not to ask them not to put so much pressure on their kids because of this risk. It's a 100% at risk job when you play football. It's a 100% at risk job. And the career life of average NFL player is only 2.5 years, 3 years at the most. And that's why we emphasize educating as a priority because if you go to school, you get your degree, you will make more money than an average NFL player. Because once you graduate and you go and do an internship somewhere and they hire you, your tenure would be a lot longer. You can work 15, 20, 25 years in that company. You're going to make twice as much more money than what an average NFL player made at 2 years. And that's why we emphasize the importance of education. And it's hard to get a job without that paper behind you. Trust me, I know. I know this. So to sum all of this up, and I could talk about all the schools I visited: Penn State, Georgetown. I actually spoke at Georgetown. I was invited to speak at Georgetown's law class and to talk about my case, the Guidry versus the Arena Football League case. Research that; it's online. I actually have a collective bargain as part of my history is concerned. You can look up my collective bargaining agreement. My name is in there. My case and my name is in every sports law book now across the United States. Guidry versus Arena Football League. I settled my case in New York City in Trump Towers on Fifth Avenue. I visited and also spoke at Penn University there in Philadelphia at their law class for their law review. I should have been an attorney. I love law. Spoke at Rice, Texas A&M, Florida, South Carolina, Western Kentucky, University of Arizona, Baylor, University of Texas, the American Football Coaches Association Conference, spearheaded by Grant Taft, who was the former head coach of Baylor. I was on the NCAA task force. We were given a task to go out and establish a hotline number for those who were being approached by these scrupulous agents and threatening their eligibility. I was given a task while I was in the NFL Player Association to go out and recruit players to play in our inaugural NFL PA Collegiate All-Star game. And I established the next black punter who became a very popular player in the NFL with the Oakland Raiders named Marquette King and 54 other players like him that would not otherwise have an opportunity to land a job in the NFL. And I did that for 2 years. And as a result of my work, and my body work, I put in about 115 players in NFL camp that would not otherwise have an opportunity to go to NFL camp had I not met them or had they not met me. So now I'm currently the director of player affairs for the Arena Football League Players Union. We went back into bankruptcy last year in October. The idea they're considering bringing the league back next year, 2021, in the spring. I was approached recently to be partners with one of the owners next year, so that's still on the table. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with that. There are two other ownership groups that also approached me about starting another indoor football league that want to build a true equity partnership with me. So that's on the table as well. And we're just waiting to see what's going to happen with this COVID situation. So your Javelina alum is doing some things out there to open up some doors for you, the future generation. So if I land myself in a situation, I'm definitely going to be coming back to the campus and trying to see who would be interested in working in that type of corporate field as far as the football and sporting industry is concerned. And I'm going to sum this up real quick. I'm going to have to end this up real quick. I hope it didn't bore a lot of you people. My journey was very interesting. It's been a roller coaster journey. I want to say this. Since we're in this moment in this country's history, and we're talking about race, gender, ageism, sexism, and a lot of hard topics, social topics that we're talking about. I've been and requested to be on Texas A&M University Kingsville Climate Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and I'm still sitting on that committee today. As a result of what happened back in June to George Floyd, and he did attend schools there for, I think, 2.5 years, 3 years, I put together, and I heard about certain things that was going on there in the community of Kingsville, and some incident that occurred on campus there, and I took it personally. So I put together a group called the Coalition. It's a not-for-profit, and it's an advocacy organization. We advocate for those who are discriminated against. Don't matter if it don't matter what race you are, what gender you are, what age you are, what sex you are. The Coalition, what we do, we're an advocacy organization, and we go in and we fight for justice. We fight against equality. We fight for diversity. We want inclusion. We want everyone to be fairly represented at Texas A&M University Kingsville. Dr. Hutsey agrees with me. I had a conversation with 30 of the, as soon as I put the organization together, the coalition, I had 30 former student athletes join in with me the night I put it together. I got 2 Hall of Famers, NFL Hall of Famers, a part of my group. I have several former pro athletes who are part of my group, several former student athletes that competed there in basketball, that competed there in track, that competed there in football, and some just normal students that's a part of the organization. And we care about the future of our organization, and we want our organization to be the first, because we've been the first of so many. We're the first school in that Lone Star Conference to break the color barrier. We're the first school to ever have the longest winning streak in college history at 41 games in a row without a defeat. We're the first school to win 3 national championships back to back to back to back. We're the first school to hire a black coach full time on staff. It's the first quarterback to take the school to the NCAA playoffs in 1988. Yours truly, James Guidry. It was the first black running back in collegiate history to win the Harlem Hill 3 years in a row. It's never happened again. And that's Johnny Bailey. And Johnny Bailey passed away some years ago now. And I mean, we're still the first. We're still the first to do some things. And I think we should be the first to honor a fellow Javelina that lost his life to some nefarious act of a police officer. I feel very strongly about that, that we should do something in his death. And that's George Floyd. And I'm fighting on the diversity, on the Climate Diversity and Inclusion Committee to represent all people. And they asked me if I wanted to sit on the board. I asked them, who's going to be a part of this? If it's not going to be a female, I don't care if you're black or white. If it's going to be anyone Hispanic, someone from the Middle East, someone of Muslim faith, Catholic faith, Christian faith, Baptist faith, I don't care about the religion. And if it's going to be someone of LGBTQ, then I'll sit on the committee. But if you're not going to have any of those people represented on this committee, then do not count me in, because I'm going to do everything to fight against you. I'm all about inclusion, because that's what our school represents. From 1925 to current, it's 95 years old this year. And we've always been the first. And we need to be the first to break all barriers and be all inclusive. And to go out and recruit not just one group from one culture of people, but all culture of people, and explain to them the opportunity they will have if they come down to Kingsville and attend Texas A&M University Kingsville. And go out and excel and talk to them about the excellence, talk to them about the history, talk to them about the sacred ground that Clayburgh County has allowed them to build on, and the Clayburgh family and the King Ranch family. And talk to them about the real estate there. You know, King Ranch is still, I think it's still the largest ranch in the world today. I think they got real estate down in South America as well. So we got to talk to them about, you know, geographically what's down there, and not only what's down there, but the history and how the history came about, and how those who came there was inspired to become politicians. They were inspired to become owners. They were inspired to become engineers. They were inspired to become farmers. They were inspired to become police officers. They were inspired to become professional athletes. They were inspired to become religious leaders. They were inspired to become social workers. They were inspired to become musicians. They were inspired because of all of these things from attending Texas A&M University Kingsville that provided those opportunities for them to be great people in society. And that's what we represent at A&M Kingsville. I've been to Europe, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada, I've been to the Bahamas, I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to Honduras. I've been to France. I've been to Italy. I've been to all of these places. And everyone that I've met will tell you, I would have loved to have been at Texas A&M Kingsville to see what it's like down there. Because is this what it represents? That's the school I want to go to. And that's the standard that we all need to be upholding academically, not just athletically, but academically, socially, and also understand that we pride ourselves in excellence and integrity and dignity and respect. And that's the true sign of a Javeliner. So again, Hannah, thank you for allowing me to share tonight. I hope I said something or did something, or my journey would inspire some of the youth and the people, not just some of the young people on this phone, but people my age as well in my peer group, to keep pressing on and continue to represent Javelina Nation in a way that's Class A and a force to be reckoned with across the United States. Because everywhere I go, I let them know, listen, we're the only Division II team, and not to be bragging about this, but it's true. We're the only Division II team that have 3 NFL players in the NFL Hall of Fame at the Division II level. That's Gene Upshaw, that's Darryl Green, and my teammate John Randall, who used to play for the Minnesota Vikings. And they're not only good athletes, but now Darryl Green is the athletic director at James Madison University. Again, Gene Upshaw was the executive director for 20 plus years at the NFL Players Association. And John Randall owns his own contract, his own construction company. So we're doing great things out there. And we need to continue to build our past with our present so the current students that are on campus right there will understand that this is your network, tap into it. We can be open door, we can have an open door policy where we can help you land your feet wherever you desire to be. So this is what I'm here for. Thanks for allowing me to share tonight. Again, I'm James Guidry, founder of the coalition. I am number 10 on your jersey, but I'm number 1 in your heart.
All right. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate you giving up of your time. I did turn on the chat, so if anybody has any questions, they can go ahead and ask. If not, thank you to everybody who got on and participated and listened. And I hope everybody has a great night. Oh.
No questions?
I guess no questions.